Hey friends, today I'm going to show you how to make these driftwood ornaments that are painted and have this cute little tassel at the bottom to finish them off. I use gouache paint for mine because it goes on flat and has a nice matte finish, but you could use craft paint as well if that's what you have in your stash. Paint your designs on the driftwood, depending on what the shape of the driftwood is, and then if you want you can stamp a message on using stamps. There's obviously different alphabets. This is the one I'm going to use. It doesn't have an ampersand though, so I'm going to steal an ampersand from this font over here. This is the ink I use. It's Yellow Owl Workshop. It's great. I often use it for fabric too because you can heat seal it, but it has a nice solid color and it doesn't run. I usually set up my letters beforehand to avoid making any errors. It's also a good idea to plan the length of the words that you're going to be stamping so that you know it's going to fit in your space. You can either do a test run on paper beforehand, or in this case I've done the words before, so I know that they're going to fit. Try to avoid getting ink on the corners of the block, as you don't want those little square patterns to print. You just want the letter to print. There you can see the type adds a nice little message. Here are a few other examples. As you can see, the design of the paint work is pretty simple, but it's something about the color against the neutral tone of the driftwood that just makes it really fun. You can varnish them if you want. I used a matte varnish that I had on hand just to give it a little bit of protection. Okay, moving on to the tassels. As you can see, they have this little screw at the top that screws into the bottom of the driftwood, and they just add a little pizzazz to the ornaments. I just use regular embroidery floss. I got this bulk pack at Michael's and I couldn't resist it because of the luminous colors. Aren't they fabulous? And they went so beautifully with my paint colors. For each tassel you'll need one little screw eyelet with a hole that's about 1/4 of an inch in size. So I picked this color floss to go with this ornament. I think they go quite nicely together. You start by removing the label from the floss, and then you want to look for where the cut ends are. There's obviously 2 cut ends, and you need about at least 2 lengths of the floss skein. If the 2 ends are on the same side as at the bottom end, then just cut 2 lengths. If the 2 ends are on opposite ends from each other, then cut 3 lengths, because then you'll end up with both on the same end. So just snip that piece off and then open up the skein into the loop. You can see there my 2 ends are together. And then I'm going to take my long thread and thread it through the gap in the skein that I've got here, making sure that the cut ends are on the opposite end of the end that you're threading through. And then we're going to thread those 2 little ends through the eyelet or the hole in the little screw eyelet. And you want to pull it down gently just to the middle of the skein, and you can pull the 2 ends together to make sure that you have it centered nicely. Don't know why that little random bits there. We will just trim that off in a bit. So as you can see, I've evened mine out nice and smooth. You can sort of smooth it out nicely, and I've got the 2 halves equally spaced, and then you remove that spare piece of thread. Next we're going to make a slip knot in the spare piece of thread, and you want the one end to be slightly longer than your long finger, your middle finger, and the other end is going to be much longer. So the short end is as long as your finger and the other end is longer. Then open up the slip knot and you're going to slide it over the tip of the screw eyelet, and you want the knot part of the slip knot to be centered on the back side. So at this point you don't really have a front and a back, but make sure it's in the middle of the tassel on one side, and that will become your back. And then you tighten that slip knot nicely, and then you're going to tie a knot in it again to secure it. So there's a knot on top of the slip knot. And then if it's not centered in the middle of the one side, you can just scooch it around, and that then becomes your back. Just snip that random scraggly bit of thread, not the ones we're using. That was the extra bit of thread that was there. Now hold the floss all together nice and tight and start winding the longest end of the spare thread around, making a nice tight bundle where you're tying it, and you're also tying it on top of the short end of the spare thread. So you're basically securing it underneath until the long one is almost as long as the tassel, and then you want to end it on the back side where your previous knot is, and then you meet the short end of your spare thread and you're going to tie a double knot on the back there, and basically you'll have a higher knot from when you had your first slip knot and then a lower knot where you're ending off here, and you just tie a double knot to make it nice and secure. So you can see the two knots there, one on top of each other. Then I'm just going to take the tip of my scissors and just shove that bottom knot underneath that little tight bundle of thread to hide it a little bit. Okay, we're almost there. Now we're going to slide the scissors through the loopy end of the floss and just cut those loops, and then you want to tighten them all into a nice tight bundle and trim the edge nice and square. There you go. And there's our snazzy little tassel. Quick, easy and fabulous. Now we're going to find a spot in the bottom end of our ornament and just sort of gently try to screw it in. So in the beginning you have to sort of make a hole, and you can use a tap or just a little nail to make an initial hole in there, or even a fine drill bit, but I just kind of wing it, and in the beginning I just push a little bit harder, and after a few turns I find it sort of gets stuck, and then I can keep going. And you basically turn it in all the way until it's tight, making sure that you have the front end of the tassel facing the front end of the ornament. To see the knots on the tassel go on the back side of the ornament. The last step is to attach a hanging device. For most of my driftwood ornaments I've used just a smaller version of an eyelet which you screw into the top, but as you can see on this one it's a bit skinny and flat at the tip, so I'm going to drill a hole through the top and then attach a string and hang it that way.
Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you want to be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.